It's the reading quiz 703 to 712, finishing up the Roaring Twenties and what was going on in America in the 20s. So the KKK gets revived and attracts millions of members by the mid 20s. At this point in time, they have a very public stance. It is nothing to see in the South, even in the Midwest, in the West. Klan Day at the picnics, a Klan parade, Klan charity drive, and other social events. Are they still a bad organization? Absolutely. But they have a more public face in this time period. The Klan exploited racial, ethnic, and religious prejudices, campaigning against alien creeds. The Klan is rooted in the countryside, but attracted many urban residents, and the Klan showed some political power, but always their downfall is scandals. Exposés lead into a quick decline. So somebody will write a story about how bad they are, and their political ideology is gone. Their chance at winning office is gone. Here's some of the issues, and I really like this chart because it's pretty broad about why you like one issue or why you don't like the issue. Here's a Klan Day at the races in Denver. So in Denver, of all places, the West, where there's not a lot of racism or segregation or anything like that. So it's very interesting to see how the Klan kind of changed and morphed over time. All right, Prohibition. To enforce the 18th Amendment, Prohibition, the illegal, which makes illegal the manufacturing and sale of alcohol, the Volstead Act is passed so that you cannot manufacture, sell, or distribute liquor, as I just said. But people evaded it. Just like today with marijuana, if you want it, you can get it, especially in bigger cities. But, I mean, even in Texarkana, you can get it very easily. To supply the growing demand for liquor, organized crime developed elaborate distribution networks in order to get that stuff into the country. They'd go as far as taking bad whiskey or some sort of spirit, mixing it with a better spirit, putting it in the bottle, repackaging it, making it everybody think it's more expensive than it really is. Sometimes people would use drain cleaner and all sorts of stuff, gross, to make their liquor. Al Capone was the biggest organized crime member to run bootleg liquor during Prohibition. Support of Prohibition waned throughout the 1920s because people are getting it anyways. We're spending lots of money to try to stop alcohol, and people are still drinking it. Again, it doesn't make it illegal to drink it. You can get a prescription from a doctor for alcohol, which is crazy. And we'll very quickly decide in the 1930s that we need to sell liquor again. But the Volstead Act tries, but not successfully. Protestant fundamentalists stress the infallibility of the Bible and is challenged by the theory of evolution. Now, we've talked about this before in class. Darwin said survival of the fittest. Then people after him start, changing it that we, came from monkeys and everything else. Fundamentalists demanded a strict biblical Christianity and supported efforts to outlaw the teaching of evolution. You live in the South, they still teach evolution. They don't jam it down your throat like other places. You get to college, it's all about evolution. There is no creationism even thought about. They don't pull any punches. It's immediately evolution, evolution, evolution. So John Scopes, a high school biology teacher in Tennessee, decides that he's going to teach evolution. And he gets arrested. And they call in a hotshot lawyer, Clarence Darrow, and William Jennings Bryan is called in to prosecute Scopes. Fundamentalists are mocked before a national audience. for creationism. It's known as the Scopes monkey trial. And the issue remained unresolved, except for the fact that Darrow calls William Jennings Bryan to the stage. It was a sensational trial, so it was like they were on stage. But he calls him to the witness stand, and William Jennings Bryan takes the oath that he won't lie. And Darrow asks him one simple question: do you know for 100% fact that God created the earth? Well, unfair question, yes, but a fair question for trying to get somebody to say no. And of course he says no, because he believes their faith. So John Scopes is fined and told not to teach evolution, but it is a big deal. Makes national headlines. Modernists versus fundamentalists. Which one's right? Science and modernization under one side, Christianity and fundamentalism on the other. Here you can see here's William Jennings Bryan as he's interrogating him, like I just told you. Here's Clarence Darrow, and there's so many people. There's so many reporters reporting on this. It's like everybody wants to know what's going on with this trial. The United States was the world's major economic power in the 1920s. The war had changed us from a debtor nation to a creditor nation. Everybody's got to rebuild. How are they going to get it? They're going to get it from us. But what happens is that France and Great Britain are pissed off. They want their money back from Germany. Germany can't pay them back. $33 billion in war reparations is ridiculous. We want our money from Great Britain and France. So what we do is we give Germany some money. In exchange, we tell them they have to buy their products from America to rebuild. Plus, they have to send some of that money to France and Great Britain. Well, we know that France and Great Britain get that money, so we get some of our money back. It's called the circular loan, but we got to keep floating money the whole time. So eventually, Germany will suffice France and Great Britain, but they'll still owe us money. Okay, and I'll demonstrate this in class. Exports and manufacturing goods soared. American businesses become multinational companies. The government helped open doors for American businesses in other nations. Dollar diplomacy, all that stuff is all lining it into one. Multinational corporations. You have direct investments, branches, factories, and offices in more countries than just the United States. And that's just commonplace today. Popular reaction against World War I stimulated a strong peace movement. Naval disarmaments happened in Washington. And in 1928, the United States helped draft the Kellogg-Briand Pact that renounced war and was signed by 64 nations. It renounces war as a policy of America. The United States continued to dominate Latin America and support its interests. The Inter-American Conference denied the right of any nation to interfere in the internal affairs of another nation, except for us, of course, because, of course, that's the way it would be. All right, Hoover. I love this title. Herbert Hoover and the Final Triumph of the New Era. Yeah, In the 28 election, Hoover faced the Democratic candidate Al Smith in a campaign that pitted rural fundamentalists, anti-Catholicism, prohibition, and nativism against urban Catholic opponent of prohibition connected to an immigrant constituency. Woo, that's a lot of words, Mr. Williams. Okay. Herbert Hoover is a rural fundamentalist. He's anti-Catholic. He's for a prohibition, and he's a nativist. Whereas Al Smith is Catholic. He's against prohibition, and he's connected to an immigrant constituency, or the immigrants are going to vote for him. And Hoover's elected president in 1928, November of 1928, on the boast of the final triumph over poverty. Which is funny, because when he becomes president in 1929, not even a year later, the Great Depression starts. You can see Al Smith got smoked. Bad. And that's it. That's reading selection 703 through 712.